Hey guys, welcome back to Becoming Soulful. We are inviting many interesting personalities. My intention to invite people from various walks of life is to tell you that there are a lot of options in life. And if you have any dream, you can pursue it. And I'm bringing in a lot of people for you to connect with them if that dream is your dream as well. And today I have one of my friend, Mr. Rajesh Rajoo, and he is a copywriter, content strategist, children's book author. So if you are interested in copywriting, becoming a content strategist, or if you want to write a book, Rajesh will be the best person. And let us invite him onto the camera. Hey, Rajesh, please come on the camera. Hi.
Hey, Vimala.
How are
Hello.
you?
And hi, everybody. Good. Good, doing good. How are you?
I'm fine too. Thanks for accepting my invite, Rajesh.
Oh, pleasure.
Okay, so before we start, please tell us about something about you. Where are you from? And how did you start your journey of copywriting and becoming an author of a book?
All right. I'm from Kerala. So after my studies, what I did is I moved over to Chennai because I really didn't know what I want to do, actually, because I liked writing a lot. It really makes me alive, writing. So I happened to see this ad about being a copywriter. And frankly, I didn't know what that meant, And then I happened to apply for it. I got the job because, and they had asked me for something called a portfolio. I didn't know what the heck that was. And then they come and tell me that it's a sample of your writing. What have you done? So, well, I had a bunch of poems that I had written. That's all I took over, and they told me, fine, you're hired. And I was, wow. Is this that easy to get into, advertising? But then it was a very small firm that I got into. And all this in Chennai, and this is in the year 2000. And then since then on, till about now, that's what I've been. I've schooled myself in copywriting. You join the agency and then they tell you how exactly to do it. So that's the way I grew up, and I've kept myself abreast with lots of copywriting tips and all those that come around. And so, hey, well, here I am there.
Beautiful. So, guys, I need to tell you, Rajesh is in a place where there is poor network connection. So I think, Rajesh, your voice is very much audible, but there's a lag in the video. So, guys, you have to bear with us. So, Rajesh, as you said, many of us also don't know what is copywriting. Can you explain what do you mean by copywriting? It sounds so heavy for me. What is copywriting?
Okay. See, this is something that lots of people ask me, and I really can't explain to them as well. But then the thing is, I'll just put it as simply as possible. A copywriter writes stories for brands, so it is, you could say in a way, it is business story writing, let's say. That could be a good way to put it. If you look at it another way, you are a salesman behind a keyboard, because you telling stories is not just for people to feel good about, that bit they read. It is also to sell their products, right? So that's how that's where you bring in the interesting bits of storytelling. So there could be a pen, it could just be a pen and you want to sell it. Now, how exactly would you do it? Would you say, this pen, it flows. You can write. And the response from the audience would be, hello, a pen has to write, has to flow. So now how would you sell it? Now you will have to look at a very interesting angle about that pen. So you could bring in a person called Deepak. He lives in this very, very sweaty place, where when he puts his pen in his pocket, it starts leaking ink, even ballpoint pens. So let's say that your pen has suddenly solved that problem. So now that's what you will tell Deepak, because there are so many Deepaks around, right? So that's how you will pitch your pen, saying that no leak pens. and you build a story about it, or different stories about it, and that's the way you sell it. One of the best examples that you can do to learn what copywriting is, go to Instagram and you will see these sponsored content out there. Now, click on one of those sponsored contents and get into the web page that loads and see the way the whole thing is written. The way it is written, it'll be like, oh gosh, I need this product now. That's a story. That's a beautiful story written out there with a lot of truth elements. The truth elements would be your testimonials. So there's a lot of things playing out there to make a prospect buy. So that's the kind of storytelling that you would be doing for brands. And that's what a copywriter does.
Okay, so does it mean that a salesperson goes door to door to sell a product, whereas a copywriter sits in one place, writes about the product and tempts the people to buy them with the writing skill, with the storytelling skill of that product?
Exactly. That's a very simple and understandable way to put it. Okay. So instead of me going door to door, I'll reach so many doors just sitting at my desk.
Yeah.
So that's what happens.
Wow.
Yes.
So for that, what are the criteria? What are the skills required? One is your language skills, your fluency, your ability to express your ideas. So all basically the language skills. What else you need? What else you need to become a copywriter?
Now, the first thing to be a copywriter is curiosity, because you will be writing about anything and everything under the sun. All right. So curiosity is so important. So when you come, let me go back to that pen example now. So you could go back and study what this pen is made of. How exactly did they arrive at this pen? Now that would be an interesting story, right? But then don't tell it in technical terms. Tell it in absolute layman terms so that they can relate. So one is curiosity. Next is the ability to tell a story out of that whatever you learn. Pick up a thread, just one interesting point, pick it up and flow with it. That's a nice way to tell a story, right? You don't tell everything together because you pick up one point and you let it unravel, fact for fact, or maybe story points for story points. So that's when you get a beautiful story that also sells. For instance, Reader's Digest. I mean, if anybody has gone to Reader's Digest now, because I don't know whether they're around still, but the way they write, you get their books, and the way they sell their products through that's fantastic. Though they actually follow the principles of copywriting. Okay. So that's what it is. You need to write well. Yes, that's a given. You need to write well. You need to know your grammar. You need to know when you break your text. But more than that, it is a curiosity and your storytelling ability. That's most of it.
Beautiful. How come some of us are inclined towards copywriting? When some of us are interested in writing, straight away they'll become authors. But why people choose copywriting? How does that inclination goes towards copywriting as a profession?
As a profession, okay. Like Vimala, the way I was saying, I didn't know anything about copywriting at all. All I knew that I could write. All right. So, and in my case, if you look at it, I mean, I wanted a job. I was pushed to be a journalist, but no, that just wasn't me. I mean, I'm not this person who just gets up and goes and, hits a story, and follows that. And I'm not that kind of a person. I'd love to sit at a desk and write, and be in my own world. There's music playing around. I mean, I sit and write and I do my research and I write. So I wanted to know what exactly can I do with these kind of skills? I mean, these lights rather. So that's when I found out that there's something called copywriting. I as far as I know, I had done some personality test and they had told me that I'll fit for the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. And I was like, oh my gosh, no way, and then they said the Indian Administrative Service. And I was like, again, no, And then the last bit was advertising. And I was like, wow, I mean, how do I fit into advertising? That sounds so cool. And then I found out, and that's when I knew that, there's something called copyright. Usually people don't, it's not very mainstream. But if you go over to the cities and all that, people do know. Okay, fine. Now this guy works in an advertising agency and he's a copywriter. People do know that, so that's how you get into this.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know advertising. Yeah. Can you share some interesting things happen in the journey of your copywriting? Anything interesting that happened? Because advertising sounds very no fancy. It's a fancy world for all of us when we see that, or when we read something. We by default we get bought by what is being written. More than reading news, I love reading advertisements. So share some interesting story in your journey of copywriting.
Copywriting journeys as such, I mean, most of the funny things as such happened right at the beginning. So when I joined advertising, what my grandma thought was that I climbed walls to paint, to paint those boards and all that. And how I found out is, once when I went home and I was saying, okay, bye, grandma, I'm leaving now. She was, careful, child. Be careful when you're climbing ladders. I was like, whoa, what ladders do I climb? And that's when it's later on that I connected it. That is one bit. But when you come to the, the industry per se, there are lots of funny things that also happen, for instance, I mean, one that I'll never forget is, there was this time when we were supposed to do an event. I think it was for Medimix. I'm not really sure. I think it was for Medimix. And since this is an event, all the copywriting will revolve around, selling that event at the venue, plus selling it via the usual modes like newspaper, inserts, and all that. So there's an art director who had made all these sets and everything to transport over to the venue. That night around 12 o'clock, the person who has to transport calls and tells this guy, sir, we can't come. And art director was like, what do you mean you can't come? Something happened there and he couldn't come. So there was this guy lurking behind us when all this was happening. We didn't know who it was. We thought it was one of the suppliers, and there are people out there. So this guy comes forward and says, sir, truck, I bring. So our art director was so happy, that's like clutching on straws types. So everything is now, it's all ship-shape, right? I mean, it's ready for launch and everything. And the next day morning, 6 o'clock, we bought all the props and everything down. And then we're waiting. And this man comes. He comes in his motorbike. And he has his hand behind him. He comes over and he reveals the model of a truck. He thought we wanted a model truck. So, that was really funny. I mean, I could still see that the look on my art director's face, I mean, it's just that he didn't faint. He just went over and screamed at the top of his voice. That's what he could do for first reaction, So advertising is quite crazy in that sense, And when I joined first, I mean, one computer was shared by 3 people because we're all trainees, So 2 of us were copywriters, another was the designer. The designer always had to sit and design. I mean, he can't do it on paper alone, So we used to go sit and do things on paper and then bring it over and key it in when he's not there. Those kind of things. But it's fun. Overall, it's a nice, fun industry to be in. Yeah.
How does you go get that creativity juice always? Because you should be always creative, right? How do you get that creativity juice always 24/7 and that too as a profession? If you're doing it as a hobby, it'll be interesting. How do you get that?
Yeah. So, there are processes in this. All right. So the first thing is when somebody comes to you with a piece of communication that needs to be done, you first ask, what is unique about your product? You know, what is so unique about your product that somebody should buy it? Next is, who is your audience? Who are you talking to? Because if I take a razor, and no matter how much of good copy I write, and I place that ad in feminine, nobody's going to buy it. Nobody's even going to know about that new razor, you know, because it's not for women. It's for the men. So who is your audience? And then the third question you ask is, what is the expected reaction? What do you want them to do? Do you want them to just say, ah, I didn't know that? Or, oh gosh, I need to buy this. You know, there has to be some reaction. When these three building blocks are there, you know that you have, you know, something to build on. Now you put the framework of a story around that. You know that you are talking to, I'm talking to, you know, college students, and this is a product that will make life easier for them in a certain way. So that is what I will communicate. Now, all I need to know, I know the framework now. All I need to know is, how can I make it look really nice, you know, and not ever to talk about the product, but to talk about what that product does for you. It is your audience that has to come first. Now, I cannot say, hey, this is a company that's been around for, you know, 1,000 years. And I mean, we've done this, we've done that, and nobody's interested. The first question that somebody asks is, what is in it for me? And that's what we are copywriters are trained to write. You know, you ask these three basic questions and then talk to the audience about a benefit of that product. So that's how, and since you know these things hold you together, then all you need is a story. You know, you look around, you just go for a walk, you do your research, and you just go for a walk, or you would come back next day, or you read a book, or you listen to music, or you take your old, you know, there are these ad reviews and all that. There are these ad books as well, ad club award books and all that. Just go through them, and you'll again, and then it's tangent. I'm not saying copy. I'm saying get the connects, you know, build stories, build connections, and suddenly you have a story. Now, all you need to do is sit and write it out, rewrite it, because I mean, you want to get it sharp and beautiful.
Wow, beautiful. Beautifully explained. So 3 questions is, who's your target audience? What is the experience you want to give to them? And
what is the why your product? I mean, you know, what is this benefit that you're going to give them? Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, now one question will be, people who are always writing will be a couch potato, and their physical fitness will be at stake. You look so slim, and how do you take care of your health? Because your back will be a toss. You're always sitting and writing. How do you take care of your physical health?
So the first thing about, you know, what you said about those physical ailments, that's true. I've got a neck problem. I've got a back problem. I've got a shoulder problem. Okay, and I've got problems with my eyes as well, and that's basically just sitting around and doing stuff. So, but what all agencies have, and most people, most writers, we don't sit in a place and write mostly. You know, it's only since the advent of the digital age, and you know, your SEO copywriting and your you know, those high demand stuff. It's only since then that, you know, a lot of stuff is being produced, and you need to be glued to your table. Otherwise, you just walk around. The way we take care of ourselves is we have our standing desks. Some of us have standing desks. So, and then we walk around. We walk a lot. You know, at least me, I climb stairs. I climb the stairs. I just go over, chat with people. I go up to the cafe, sit around there. And you need to move, you know, because you know, once you get your you know, those physical problems around, that's when you realize, oh heck, I mean, you know, I can't be just sitting in one place. I can't be this, you know, couch potato types who just sits and does stuff. I need to move. So it comes in your flow, you know, after all the euphoria of that first few months or first few years, and when things, and if you don't take care of yourself and things start taking a toll, and then you wake up and you do your normal stuff, you know. So what, and I've seen lots of people, they have this little timer on their computer, you know, half an hour, get up and walk, dude, you know. So yeah, that's the way you do it, you know.
Very nice, very nice. And one more challenge for copywriters will be they'll be never anybody who's interested in writing will be they'll be never satisfied with their first writing or the second writing. They keep on changing many a times, right? How do you handle that challenge?
See, when it comes to satisfaction, you know, there are two things. One is you not being satisfied with your writing. And that's because, you know, everything can be bettered. Things can be better. You know, you write a piece today, you come back, say 2 days later, and you look at it and you'll be like, gosh, did I write that? You know, you will want to rewrite it because that's the fun of it. That's when you get it crisp and beautiful. But then there's another part of it where the client comes back saying that, hey, this is not what we want. And that happens when you don't have a brief in place originally. So the brief is, what is so special about your product? What is your product? What is so special about it? Who are you talking to? What do you want the audience to do with it? If you don't ask these questions, and a brief is actually much more questions. You know, you can put in as many questions as possible to make it as detailed, but these three pillars must be there. And it's when you don't get this right that the client gets, you know, he's like, oof, what is this? And another thing that you need to ask your client is, what is it that I should not be doing in this writing process? You know, maybe he would say, my clients, you know, they like short sentences, or they don't have a good attention span. And he'd tell you a lot of things. So find out what that not do thing is. And like I mentioned, those short sentences, in any case, whatever writing you do, keep it short, you know. Nobody has that long an attention span.
Yeah. Okay, so let me move on to your next avatar, your children's book author.
Yes.
Say something about it. How did you get that idea? And how many books you have written? And how was your response?
Well, a response as such, you know, only people who have read it, they've said, wow. But I'm still trying to sell my book, you know, since it's quite, the Amazon environment is quite slow moving. And I really haven't invested in advertising there. And I'm on the process of writing my third book in the series. So how did I get into it? Well, there's this, my kid was, you know, always, she wanted stories. And she wanted random stories. The thing is, she'd look at the fan and she'd tell me, okay, Dad, tell me a story about the fan. And I would be like, so blown, what story do I make with the fan? But then that was a kind of challenge for me too, you know. Hey, copywriter, come on, make a story, you know. And so I just make a story about the fan. So when this kept going on and on and on and on and on. And one day in desperation, I was like, before she could tell me, there was this elephant sitting out there she was playing with, a blue and pink elephant. And I thought, oh, heck, why don't I make a story about that before even she asked me? And I started making a story about that. I called her Ella. And I made up this story, you know, and then I thought, hey, I mean, the kid really enjoys it because she was keeping on asking me for the same story again and again and again, you know. And then I had to make a series of stories for Ella. And then I thought, okay, come on, why don't we put it into a book? So once I wrote all these, you know, stories, I mean, there were 5 stories in the beginning. And then one of my friends called me up, and he's also from advertising, you know. I mean, he's a big shot in advertising, actually. So he just called me up and asked me, what are you doing, man? I mean, and I said, dude, I've just written this book. I'm looking for an illustrator. And he was like, I'm an illustrator. You didn't know so far. And he joined, he partnered, and he saw this and he was like, let's get this rolling. You know, so he did the illustration, and then we made it into an ebook. I mean, I made it myself into an ebook, you know, and just put it up on Amazon. It's called Adventures of Ella Elephant. So the first book done, the second book was also done that way. We didn't do much of a marketing out there. And now the third book is on the way. Now what we think is, you know, once it is 3, Amazon likes things in 3s, you know. So once it is 3 and my friend does all the illustration and comes back, I mean, we get it into a book format, we're going to promote all of that.
Beautiful. It can
So anyway,
be
that's the way I.
given, it can be given to all schools. School children would love it.
Yes, Vimala, I've actually done school readings for this, and I take one story and I read it for the kids and I show them those slides and they're like, wow.
Oh, okay.
I've done a couple of school readings, yes.
Wow, wow.
That's what I intend to do as well.
Beautiful. So your child is inspiration for you to write that story.
My child is the inspiration for me. Yep. And I've also done a podcast, a stories podcast. So this one is called, Bedtime Stories with Rajesh Rajoo.
Okay.
You get it on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, everywhere. Mm-hmm. And that again is inspired by my kid, because every time now she wants a story, I just keep that up. I don't have to tell her a story now. I've just got 8 stories in there. So that was supposed to be the first season or something. I need to do 2 more stories. That's where I am.
Wow. Congratulations. And because I love people who publish books and you become an author, everybody's bucket list will be becoming an author. Congratulations. Your third avatar, Rajesh, content strategist. What do you mean by that and what do you do?
Okay, content strategist is, in the copywriting field itself, you need to do some research prior. Like I told you, there's this brief, yes, but based on that brief, you write out a content plan for your client. So it would be, you would take your audience, they've already told you who your audience is. So you would go actually take up an audience, go interview them. And let them talk loosely and then introduce the brand in between, so that learn a little about them. What is their daily life like? I mean, you get all those interesting points. You make stories out of those people, and those are real stories. Now, this is what this person does. This is what this person does, and this is how this person reacts to a brand, or that category. And once that is done, you sit down and you brainstorm with your folks out there. There is the art director, there is the creative director, there's the client service person who actually interacts with the client. You sit and you brainstorm with them and talk a little more about this, so that as a copywriter, the thing is very clear in your head that this particular product, I'm going to base it on a broad idea that will have so many stories out. For instance, Coca-Cola, at one point in time, their broad idea or big organizing idea, as such what we call it, is happiness. And if you remember, their tagline was open happiness. And with that tagline, they did so many campaigns. And one of those, there are some really brilliant campaigns, One was where they had a park, a lawn, and a lawn where apparently they'd drawn a periphery, and the moment you come stand there, remove your footwear and go into the lawn and stand in front of this kiosk out there, it would give you a Coke. Open happiness. That it relates so much to happiness. There was another one where a person from India or anywhere could donate a Coke to a person anywhere else. So for instance, I can sit here in Kerala and donate a Coke to somebody in Afghanistan if the kiosk is there. All that person has to do is come in front of it and wave or something. I'm not really sure. But the Coke comes up. And the other side, the Afghani thinks that, this dude from Kerala gave me a Coke. So that again is open happiness. You see the way you come at a big organizing idea. To come at that big organizing idea, you need a nice brief from your client. Plus, you need to interview your audience and come up with a nice plausible story that will sell to them based on that brief, right? Once you come to your big organizing idea, then you sit and you decide, okay, now this idea, I will take it out into different stories in different media. And then you put a cost to it. Now, this whole thing together is a content strategy for that particular brand.
Beautiful. So who can get in touch with you, Rajesh? Do you train people on copywriting? Do you train people on writing a book? Do you train people on content strategy? Who can get in touch with you?
Anybody who wants, any of the juniors who want to get into copywriting as such could, they just ring me up and they just say, hi, I'd like to, learn a little bit about copywriting, the basics of it. I could just walk him or her through it, and content strategy comes a little after that. It's once you are into this field for say around, 5 to 6 years, that's when you get to know what, what about advertising. And then you get to learn about what branding is, what a brand is. And that's when you can get on a content strategy. So the beginning is just the basics, anybody who's interested in copywriting can just pick me up.
Wow, beautiful. So if I give you 90 seconds, Rajesh, and if you have to give some suggestion for people who are inclined to become a copywriter or who wants to write a book, especially children's book, what would you suggest them?
Copywriter, I would say, there's this very foundational book. Is this visible, Vimala?
No, not. I'll share it in the description box.
All right.
It's
called Hey Whipple. It's called Hey Whipple, Squeeze This.
Mm-hmm.
It's by a person called Luke Sullivan. So this is a foundational book in advertising. If anybody who reads this, understands this, can start their journey. And to start their journey, the first thing that they need to do is take up any fictional product and start doing ads about it, based on what they read in this particular book that I said.
What is the name of the book? What is the name of the book?
Hey Whipple, Squeeze This.
Okay. We'll share it.
It is by Luke Sullivan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but the basic will be language fluency. That is
yes, language fluency.
Okay. Or can I say that only people with language fluency will have an inclination of becoming a copywriter if they like the language, if they have that?
You can be a copywriter in any language you want.
No, yeah.
Any language.
Understood. Yeah.
So just as long as you have that language fluency and you also know colloquial lingo so that you can, intermingle in there. So that's a good thing to do.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, language fluency, yes.
Yeah. Creativity, curiosity, language fluency, patience, and what else? What are the personality traits they need to have?
Personality traits as such, you can just be yourself. But the point is, start copying advertising. Start copying the ads. Take the best ads, sit and write them out. This is the headline. This is the body copy. This is the, the call to action. Sit and write them out. That's the only way you can learn.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Rajesh, for accepting, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks, Vimala.
Write your third book as well, and hope to meet you again with better clarity of your internet connection, so that we can go in depth about, we can talk about if somebody is contacting us, let's connect with them, and we can share more in-depth details about copywriting, because a very, very interesting field, and that's going to be the future with a given scenario where we are right now. You agree with me?
Yes, of course. You can tell your own story, you can make your own money too.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time.
Take care. Thank you.
Yeah, bye. So that's Rajesh Rajoo for you guys. So if you're interested in knowing more about copywriting, or if you're interested in writing books, especially children's book, or if you want to become a content strategist, Rajesh Rajoo is a person to be connected. I'm going to share all his details in my description box, and I'm going to share the link for his ebook, children's story book as well. If you have children, please buy that book and read for your children should be definitely very interesting. The name of the book is Adventures of Ella Elephant. So it's about an elephant, and he has continuously written those stories, and he has shared the story with with his child. So definitely you can read it for your children as well. So I'll come back again with more interesting personalities and more stories and more um, passionate work done by people in different areas of life. Thanks for watching. I'm Vimala Rane signing off from Becoming Soulful. Thank you. See you again.